In this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super, we finally get to learn the true identity of Goku Black. Spoiler warning, if you have not seen this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super, go watch that episode, then come back to this review. Now, let's just go ahead and get this out of the air. Who is Goku Black? According to him, at the very end of this week's episode, Goku Black is indeed Zamasu himself, who has switched bodies with the real Goku, killing the original. This makes sense. What does not make sense is why are there so many versions of Zamasu? Well, it's made painfully clear in this episode. There are an infinite amount of alternate timelines and parallel universes within the Dragon Ball universe, which means where there's a possibility we might even be seeing even more forms of Zamasu that we didn't know about. What is known is that Zamasu actually found Goku's original body, used the Super Dragon Balls to switch with him a la Ginyu, and now he killed the original, teamed up with another version of himself, and they're planning on destroying all of humanity. Despite the fact that we got some pretty big answers to the identity of Goku Black, there's still a lot of questions. What I will say is, this was an okay episode of Dragon Ball Super. 75% of this week's episode was Future Trunks talking to his younger counterpart about how he's afraid that the future is not going to be changed, despite the fact that Beerus says that everything is going to be cool. However, I do really like the fact that he's trying to let his future self know that he's basically just there to participate in their timeline, and that they're going to grow up in completely different ways. The fact that the younger version of Trunks has this nice, awesome city that he lives in, can see this beautiful view at night, is something that the future Trunks has never actually seen before. And they don't waste any time at the end of the episode in going to the future, with Goku, Vegeta, and even Bulma tagging along, which might not be the best decision, but it's actually in many ways kind of good that she's there, just so she can sort of witness what the future is like, and help them out if something really bad does happen to the time machine. There's also a scene where Future Trunks actually manages to save Mai, who's become ill, and he gives her a senzu bean by biting it up and actually like putting it right in her mouth, like a mother bird feeding its child. It's a really funny scene because it really shows the strong connection between the characters, but the fact that Goku is disgusted by the fact that Future Trunks is touching lips with Mai. And this really freaks out Vegeta because he's like, "You've never done that with your wife before?" And Goku's like, "No, I never have." My guess is it's just Goku being an idiot, but they don't waste any time into running into Goku Black and Zamasu, and this is when Black finally reveals his true identity as actually Zamasu, who has switched bodies with Goku. My head is just spinning trying to figure out how all of this is working, why we have two different versions of Zamasu. I'm imagining that the Zamasu that we see in the future, the regular one, is probably the one who's always existed within that timeline, and that Goku Black is probably from an alternate timeline that we've never seen before, and he's been going around and killing all of the gods and taking them all out so that nothing can stand in his way. The only thing left, of course, is Goku and Vegeta from their respective universes, and maybe even Future Trunks is going to end up being a threat to their ultimate plan, but we're going to have to wait and see as they finally get ready to battle. And there is a very small amount of action in this episode, with Vegeta just going on the rampage, immediately going into Super Saiyan Blue, trading a few punches with Black Zamasu. Or what are we going to call him from now on? Is he going to be just Zamasu? Is he going to be Gomos? Is he going to be Zamoku? I don't know. I'm just going to continue to call him Goku Black just to distinguish the two different characters. But it's pretty clear that in next week's episode, shit about to get real. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super? Really, I just don't have that much to say about this one. Frankly, I thought the first half of the episode was really boring. Just that they were really taking their time as they were getting ready to go to the future, and Trunks was just doubting that things were going to go wrong, and his doubts were realized when they arrived to the future and everything still was destroyed. But the big takeaway from the episode, of course, is finally getting to learn what Goku Black's identity is, and he is Zamasu, which is just really interesting. The fact that we can have like an infinite number of timelines and alternate dimensions means that there's a lot of crazy shit going on in the parallel universes of Dragon Ball, and they could really do a lot with that in the Dragon Ball Super series. Hell, that means technically the series could go on forever. My theory is that Dragon Ball GT takes place in some alternate version of Dragon Ball, and that means we don't have to count it anymore. Or not so much that we don't need to count it, but we can just accept that it's probably just another parallel dimension set within the Dragon Ball universe. Still, I cannot wait to see how all of this went down. I'm not sure what happened first. Was there an evil version of Zamos, or was there the Zamos that became black who recruited the other Zamos? You can see why this is getting kind of confusing, but I really can't wait to see how that's going to go down. And the preview for next week's episode even teases a lot more things, not just a lot of action, but there's also the possibility of fusion with the Potara earrings. There's just so many questions I have, but it is really cool to know that we now know that Goku Black is essentially Zamos, who is arguably one of the most interesting villains from the Dragon Ball universe at this point. A character who has transcended the space-time continuum and parallel universes to take over everything, and that includes even killing all of the gods themselves and challenging the two most powerful characters in the universe, being Goku and Vegeta. Not, of course, counting Beerus and Zeno, of course. Still, I cannot wait to see how the rest of this is going to go down, and we finally got some solid answers, but a lot more questions in this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super. So there it is, pretty solid episode, pretty standard production quality, what you expect from an episode with very little action in it. However, I did love the scene where Vegeta was fighting Goku Black at the very end of the episode, and their punches created this massive shockwave which went through the city, destroying it even more than it already was. So let's get excited for the big battle next week, and hopefully getting more answers as to how this whole Zamos Goku Black body switching thing actually went down. We know that the Super Dragon Balls were involved, however, I still can't wait to learn a little bit more about that. But let's get hyped for the future episodes of Dragon Ball Super. I'm going to give this episode right here a 4 out of 5. The first half of the episode just bored me to death, and I was basically just waiting for the identity of Goku Black. And we finally got it at the end of this episode, and I have to say I'm pretty satisfied with it, but I just want to learn just a little bit more. That being said, Dragon Ball fans, definitely check out this episode. It will blow your mind. If any of you did watch this week's episode, I want to hear what you guys thought about it, and I want to hear your theories all about the whole body switching thing with Zamos and Goku and how it all went down, and what you hope to see from the rest of this ridiculous space-time continuum ripping arc. Please tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like, and comment. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.